let's talk a little bit about a kid that gets an injury, a concussion. We've diagnosed it, the coaches, the trainers, but just maybe just before it's been diagnosed by a trainer. The coach has pulled him out, he sees some stuff, he recognizes symptoms. What should he do? What are some of the things that you have a concussion, you should not do this because it's not good for you, although you think it's going to help you?
Sure. Well, I think the first thing is we want to be sure that we know what symptoms they're experiencing, and then be sure that we're looking for any deterioration of those signs or symptoms. And that's communicating either with the athlete through the parent involvement, the athletic trainer's involvement, if there's one there. The things that you want to be sure that you don't do is certainly go back into the game. No kid that has, where we even suspect there may be a concussion, should be sent back into the same game. I mean, it's just, it's a game, and we're talking about a kid's life. We know that kids under the age of 18 are more susceptible to something called second impact syndrome, where the brain's autoregulation of the blood supply, which just means that the brain's ability to self-regulate the blood supply, can be compromised by a second insult after they've experienced this first one. And the easiest way to prevent that injury is to be sure that the kid is asymptomatic before they go back to play without symptoms. So that's the number one thing that we want to be sure that we do, is not send them back to play too early, not send them back to exertional activities too soon after that initial injury.
So the second impact syndrome, obviously by that term, there is a first impact. So if you get that first impact and let's say you get a little headache, but you decide, oh, I'm not going to get this checked out. I'm popping a couple aspirin or something, and to deal with this symptom, so that I don't really have to report it to anybody, and then the pain temporarily goes away. You're able to mitigate and handle some of the others, and then you're going to get back in without reporting it. That's when the real danger exists.
It is, and I didn't mention, but I'm glad you brought it up. Meds, we try to avoid, if at all possible, taking of any aspirin, Tylenol, ibuprofen within those initial 48 hours, because that's a very important window where we want to see if signs and symptoms are moving in the wrong direction, deteriorating. By taking anything that's going to mask the pain, we may be missing something really important, and so we try to avoid that. And there are some physicians who are a little more lenient on that, but I would be certain that we have their involvement in that, and that they have themselves ruled out a bleed of the brain of any sort that could be further compromised by taking aspirin, which is one of the biggest no-nos, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. That's such an important point for you as a student athlete that you have to lock in on. If there is an injury, and it's a brain injury, it's not a ding or a buzz, it's a brain injury. If you're having some symptoms, you can't mask them through medication. That's the worst thing you could do. You need to come to terms with that and present that to a professional. Tell your coach, tell your parent, get it to a medical professional, so that professional then can find out the best route to get you back on the field healthy, so that there's not danger.
You know, one of the other things that I haven't mentioned, I think is really important too, probably for parents, coaches, and certainly for athletic trainers and physicians that are managing these cases, is good documentation. To be certain that you're really writing down the information, the signs and the symptoms, if anything is worse today than it was the day before. Those are important factors to consider when we're managing these cases, and can save lives as well, because if we saw this deterioration for 2 or 3 days and then it's improving for a day, but it seems to be fluctuating, that's important information that we want to use in guiding our return to play decisions. And it also, I will tell you that during litigation, of which I've had to serve in some capacity in terms of cases, and those can get ugly, that having good documentation is really important.